All right, I guess we're on. Hey, everybody, how's it going? My name is Scott, and I'm a developer who's trying to build like 12 startups this year. But they're really just products. They're really like MVPs. Um, but it's kind of like every month I want to build a new product and then release it into the public and try and get feedback on them, try and see if any of them take off. And if some of them get interest or I really like the idea or that kind of thing, I guess I'll keep building on one of them. But so far I've built three, two apps, and last month I built the first web app. Didn't go so well, the last one, because I kind of ran out of time. I had a bit of problems with it, but um, it's online, it's usable. It's 10ideas.cloud, and so it's kind of a working prototype. Where's the thing? Homepage. So it's kind of like a working prototype of an app, and so it's given me a good kind of base, so I can build some more SaaS apps on top of that going forward. And so today, I'm starting a new app. I'm starting a new like a new product, and I want to basically live stream the whole thing because it's kind of when you're building solo, you don't what do? You don't like you get distracted pretty easily, you know. And so I wanted to build this project in public because I wanted that like external pressure so that I'm deliberate in my actions. So if I'm doing this every day, trying to, putting my progress out there, it's like forces me to think about what I'm doing and if it's going to help me achieve the goal. And the goal is to launch a product this month. Actually, I want to finish the product in about maybe 2 weeks. Let's see. Um, kind of on like the 24th, the 25th, that weekend. So today's the 8th and whatever. So I got a couple of weeks and I want to build the product and then try and launch it. And I literally just have the idea at the moment, right? So I want it to be completely open about this whole thing. So I'll do like probably daily live streams, not 8-hour long live streams, but maybe like an hour of the most interesting bits. And I'll post my progress every day. And so you can see me go from the concept, which is just an idea at the moment. I don't have any design or anything like that. And see me come up with a design, build the actual thing, talk to users, do mini launches, I don't know, things like that, and eventually watch me launch the whole thing. And it could go belly up, but it doesn't matter so much. It's kind of just fun to build these things. And it's a product that, at least the idea that I'm going to build is something that I want to do. I want to use, and so, yeah, that's my plan. So if you're keen to watch, hopefully it'll be interesting for you guys. So definitely check it out. So I actually made a little, if you go on my website, kangaroo.xyz, I've got like a little page, little progress page up here. And it's kind of like just my progress to date. So I started a bit late, about a week late, but you'll be able to see me kind of progress and create a design as I go. So hopefully it'll be cool. So if you don't want to watch these videos, you can keep track there if you're keen. But anyway, so I guess today's video will be two things. So number one is the idea itself or the concept. So like, what am I planning to build? Who are my users? And kind of like the overall structure of the app in my mind. And then I'm going to show you a bit of the dev setup that I've got going. So it's like just a bare minimal kind of boilerplate with my server, the front end, and I'll just give you a quick rundown of that thing. So yeah, let's get started. So the app idea, I'm going to call it Elemental, right? It's just a temporary name, but the concept is like you want to capture these elements of like pages or components, you could say. So the idea is like, oh, it looks like we've got a storm coming through. It'll be cool. Anyway, like the idea is, what is the idea? Sorry. It's kind of like design inspiration, right? So often when I'm building a new product, kind of like these things every month, I have this idea in my head and I want to like create a design for it. I don't have a designer, and I'm not a designer either. I'm a developer, but I like to look at existing websites or applications. Maybe I find little cool animations on certain pages, and I want to capture all of these so that I can use them in future designs. Be inspired by them. So it's not like copying designs, but it's like you create this curated collection of design inspiration. So to give you a better idea of what I'm talking about, there's a whole bunch of these types of pages, but one is like pages with XYZ, which I found recently. It's kind of like you have these landing pages. And so these are, it's like a curated list of cool landing pages that you can browse. But for me, it's like they look cool, but they're not like designs that I chose specifically. It's curated by someone else, And so I might only like a couple of these or only like elements of these. And so the way my site will work, in my mind at least, is I wanted to, let's say, for example, this app, maybe I just like this little, maybe the whole header, just want to capture the header and save it in like this curated kind of collection of mine. And I could do the same for even titles. So maybe the title is really nice here and quite concise or looks good in some way, or the text is good. So there's a whole bunch of like little elements that I always see in websites, and that's the kind of stuff I want to capture. And the problem that I have at the moment is that I have a collection of stuff I like, but it's all in bookmarks, So it's, you could actually see it here. It's like website designs, just a whole ton of bookmarks, and these are full pages that have elements of things that I like. Maybe I like the whole website, but whenever I'm building a new site, or maybe an app, or like a component or a dev tool, it's just like a whole mess of stuff in here. And so I don't know what these look like. I don't know why I like them. So it's kind of like solving that problem for me. Being able to like curate a list of things that I like these bookmarks, but be able to search for them kind of based on tags that I tag them with, maybe. So like a header. So maybe I like particularly like headers. So I'll categorize them as headers. And then I can come in and search for headers, and then find the ones that I've liked before. And so that's partly the problem I'm trying to solve. And so this is also something I've seen other people do. So I actually found out pages.xyz through the refactoring UI guys. So they made like a YouTube video explaining how they would fix a website, one of their colleague, like a friend of theirs website. And they were using pages.xyz to get some kind of inspiration. So it's obviously not something I just do, but something most people do, I would assume, is they look for inspiration, have certain pages that they go to when they need a kind of a new design. So that's kind of what I want to do. It's kind of really improve that process. Yeah, so that's that. So I guess the idea for this whole thing, so like I said, it's just an idea in my mind. So I'm just gonna, I guess today I'll try and flesh it out a bit more in my mind, kind of get like a little plan going. So I'm going to call it elemental because I'm capturing these little elements or components. It's just a temporary name for now. I don't know if I'll keep it, but we'll see. And can you hear that? Big storm. Cool. Anyway, so I see 3 parts of this, right? So let's see. So I guess one part is the kind of the website itself, right? Well, I'll break that down into 2 parts. So the one part of the website would be something similar to a curated list, kind of like this. There's other sites that do that. So it's kind of like a curated list of components or elements, whatever. Say components. And so this would be like a public page that people can kind of access. They can see designs that have inspired me, and it'll be like a curated list that people can use. On top of that, I want to add like a private kind of database, kind of a private list of your components. So you can then add your own elements. You can filter them in ways that you want. And so it's kind of like your own collection of things. And I'm thinking maybe you could have a public page. So like you have your own private collection, and then you could have a public page where people can follow you. I don't know. This is kind of just ideas off the top of my head. But there'll be a public and a private version of this curated list. That's kind of the core idea. The second major part to this would be like a browser extension. And so I think I'll just do it in Chrome at the moment because I've done that before and they have the biggest market share. But it'll be like it'll be like a Chrome extension, which would work in sort of the same way as, let's say, there's a cool little tool here in Firefox, which I'm using. You can find it here. It's like screen capture in English. And so you can kind of select these different elements. So for example, the text here or the header, click on that, and then it creates like this thing. And then you can kind of crop. Man, I'm really dark. Where'd the sun go? Hey, sorry if it's too dark for you guys. But anyway, okay, so you have this kind of cropped header. You can then copy it or download it. What I want to do is have something similar, but kind of just send it to your list, and then maybe you can categorize it right here. So it's like, okay, this is a header, and then you just click save. And so that way, when you're browsing around the web, you can be like, oh, I really love this image and this thing here, So I'll just like capture that whole element, save it, done, really quick. So that's kind of the Chrome extension or browser extension concept. So that's kind of it. So pretty simple. I've only got 2 weeks to build this thing, obviously. But yeah, so it'll be a website with like a server. And then people can go on the server publicly, access the various curated lists of designs that I come up with or I find around the web. They can then have a private list, and then they can download a Chrome extension, or they could probably add images in the site itself, but also they can download a extension which they can then use on the go to add to the list. And then obviously this private list will be searchable, things like that. So you can categorize your things in certain ways, search them later. And so when you come to build a new design, hopefully it'll be really easy for you to find inspired components that you like. So for example, the header or certain buttons or certain ways of expressing an idea, that kind of thing. Yeah, the lights really dropped there. Oh well. Anyway, so that's kind of the plan. What else am I doing? So the users. So I'm thinking who I want to design for are developers, I type today, and designers. So the reason I want to pick these is because of a few things. Number one, it's kind of like my people, So like I'm a developer, but I have a lot of designer friends, and designers also have something I'm trying to get better at and I can really appreciate, So I love seeing new designs, that kind of thing, and getting inspired by new people. And hopefully I can relate to this kind of group quite well. That's the idea. And they're also people that I have contacts with, so I can test this on colleagues of mine, that kind of thing. So, and speak the same language, I guess. So that's kind of the target I'm going for. The second reason is also they hang out in groups. Hopefully, if this is a good enough tool, people will be willing to kind of share it amongst themselves, So hopefully it'll be a productivity boost to their design phase, the design phase of projects. And so I guess that's my goal. It's like people I understand, they kind of hang out in groups. So hopefully there's some kind of marketable thing in there. And I guess that's it for now. Like, obviously flesh out the design, but this is definitely a high level view of the idea and the kind of the market I'm going for. So yeah, I guess that's it. So yeah, I'll flesh it out as I go. And so for the second part of today, I wanted to show you my dev setup. So last night I literally just got this working last night. And what am I doing? I've got like kind of a few new technologies that I plan to use, stuff that I haven't used before. But I think it's quite a nice setup, right? So the server I'm building, I guess the website, is a Django server, right? So this is a server built with Python, something I've used before, and it's quite nice to use. So it kind of works like any other server. You have kind of like these URLs that you hit. So URLs that you hit. It comes in with a lot of nice tooling. So let me just run this thing. So guess you can't see the command there. So I'm just running my dev environment, which is going to run the Django server. And so that's running. I can then hop on this guy. And you can see I've just got super barebones server going here. And so you can see here the URL is just empty. So that's pulling in from my elemental URLs. But it's also got like this Django thing, this admin thing. So if I hop onto admin, I get like this Django administration panel, and this lets me like kind of go through the database and add records and manage users. It's all built in, so it's like really nice, that whole thing. And so this elemental URL is kind of like a little app, as is this admin thing. They're both little apps that you can kind of connect together. So this elemental page will be, or app, mini app, will be the main app for me. And you can kind of see it's got a few basic URLs here. So obviously this main one, which is hitting views.index. So put index. I can't seem to. I'm having trouble today, like accessing these with the VS Code Navigator, but that's all cool. So my index view, I guess, is this index.html file, which is rendering the stuff. And then I've got like an API test that's just turning a JSON response. You can see I've got this little thing going. And so that's kind of like the Django thing. You got some models here, which are kind of your database components. So I can then add in the various models that I'll be using. And so you'll kind of see me use that. So that's the Django side. It's nice and bright now. What happened? Much better though, at least. Okay, so let's see. So we got the Django side. Now, the last app I had trouble with. So the app I did last month, I had a bit of trouble because I was using Django, but I'd been using single page applications for so long before that. And that is just like a React rendered website. And so they don't actually have a server. You can just run these things statically, and then the server itself, or the React itself, just spins up, So I made this little website. It's like a COVID-19 tracker. This is a fully React site. And then I host this thing on Netlify, which is the server, but it's like a free static hosting site. And then the data comes from a Git repo. So it's just like, there's no database. It's just pulling in a CSV file and then populating all this data. And then it's like super interactive, pretty cool. And so this is like all React. And it's really nice to use. So I've been used to that. But in this case, and my previous app, I wanted to use a bit more database functionality, because I'm having users, setting like subscriptions. It's also like filtering things. So like you're filtering your elements by type or whatever. So like your headers versus your buttons. We'll see how that works, but that's the kind of idea. So I wanted a bit more of a database-y framework. That's why I went with Django. But the problem with Django is it's all statically generated. So getting that interactivity has been was kind of a pain last month. And it wasn't until last night that I fixed this kind of issue that I've been having. And so I'll show you that side of it. So I guess the idea of what I'm trying to build, it's going to be Django Django rendered pages. So that's what Django does really well. You create like this index file. You can run Python logic inside the index file or in the HTML files. And so it's really great for static or server-side rendering. But when you want to make it dynamic, that's when it's a bit harder. Because if you're using just raw JavaScript, it's kind of a pain in the butt, right? And so I got this second component to it. And I quite like the setup. So what I've decided to go with is use this Parcel bundler. And this is essentially what something like Webpack does. It just bundles your code. But it's so good, man, because it's like config free. It's amazing. So you can see I haven't got like Webpack installed or SCSS installed, for example, or what else, like Post CSS. There's a whole bunch of really nice things that could just come built in into this bundler. And so when I want to kind of just works. That's kind of the idea. So I'll show you what I've got. I've got all the stuff I want to make dynamic. I'm putting in this source file here. And then what happens is bundler, when that runs, so I could actually do that now. So I just do, npm run dev and then demo. So it's going to run this little script here. You can just see it's doing Parcel, hitting that dev HTML file, which is just a super simple file that references the index.tsx file and the CSS file. And then it just knows how to compile them then. Super cool. And so now if I jump to this other server, you can see I got this file working. So if I go here, go like hello mang, you can see it compiles and then refreshes the app automatically. Super cool. And I didn't have to configure Webpack for this or Babel, or I just literally imported TypeScript. I don't even know if you need to do that, but TypeScript working. TypeScript errors don't seem to work, but I can fix that later. But yeah, it's cool. So I got a TSX file, so TypeScript running this kind of HTML syntax stuff, and then it basically spits out a JS file. And then the key to this process for me, because now you have like these two servers, right? I was like, how do you connect the two? How do you connect what this guy's outputting and get it working in Django? And I finally figured out last night, which is the key to this thing. And I've configured it to spit out these two files. So like the index and the CSS and the JS file. So this JS file is quite big, but it's got a lot of auto refresh logic and stuff in it. And so obviously that gets minimized when you run it in production. And so this is whenever this file changes, or sorry, like one of these files change. So I got hello mang. The JS file and the CSS file get re-rendered into here. And then from I've set up Django so that it knows about this file. And then I can import the stuff right in Django. So this is what this is doing. So it's pulling out the index.js file and the CSS file here. So now I've got Django and this thing working, because whenever the node server re-renders or recompiles the stuff, Django automatically knows about it. And so let's have a look. So if I refresh this Django app now, it doesn't seem to work. Why is that? Oh, okay. I'm running the wrong. It's just run Django. So that was the demo environment. I don't know if you can see that. So I was doing dev demo. So what that's doing is rendering the HTML file on this localhost 1234 server. But just close that now. If I do just dev, what that's going to do is run this guy. So it's running the same thing, but just on that TSX file and the CSS file. And since instead of outputting a HTML file, it's going to output a JavaScript file, which then Django picks up. So refresh Django, you can now see hello mang. And then if we go back to the TSX file, where are you, this guy? We'll go back to hello world. So now what's happening is the node server re-rendered it, updated the file in that disk folder, and then Django had it loaded already, and that JavaScript within the original JS file needs to pick up the file changes. So now Django is running, and I get this like automatic refresh front end stuff. Super cool. This is what I wanted, and I've been digging my heels for weeks on this thing, or just like struggling with it. It's a lot of rain. But yeah, so that's kind of the setup. So I've just got, so like I said, the idea is that I'm going to do mostly server-side rendering, on the Django side, on Django. So building like these kind of template files and then kind of rendering, because it can talk straight to the database right in these files, right? So I can render static stuff really easily. Where I need the React stuff, or in my case, Preact, it's just for a bit more of that clean UI, kind of the more interactive UI stuff. So hopefully this will be quite minimal, but I'm liking the setup already, so it should be cool. And so yeah, a couple more things. So like I said, I'm using Preact. So this is like a super minimal React equivalent. So it's got the same APIs. So things like the props here. It's even got hooks, like the React hooks and stuff. So it seems pretty cool, man. But it's only like 3 kilobytes big. React is like huge, man, these days. It's like 100 plus maybe. I don't know exactly, but I feel like React is quite loaded. And so if I can get the same APIs with Preact, I think I can use the same libraries too. So it just sounds like this cool little library. So I want to try that out. So yeah, I'm using that for the first time. And then I've got this second technology. So where's my CSS file? This guy. So for my CSS, I actually don't like writing in raw CSS these days. Instead, I'm going to use Tailwind CSS, which I absolutely love. It's this kind of utility class framework. And it looks a bit awkward when you start out because you have these like random tags you got to learn. But they're honestly not that hard to learn because they just map directly to the CSS thing, you know. So this is like text align center. That's kind of what this is doing. This is like padding 4, but in all directions, all of the sizes. So if you want to do like padding left, just padding left 4, or I don't know, different things like that, right? And so Tailwind CSS has been great for my productivity, and it's something I think makes me a better developer designer. Helps me create better designs easily, that kind of thing. So I'll be using this a lot in my project too. One other great thing about the kind of Parcel setup is that, like, you notice it built these really quick, but with the CSS, what happens is when you update that, it realizes that the CSS changes, and then knows how to compile that, or knows to compile that separately. And so what it does is it reruns the post CSS setup, which I've got Tailwind running here and auto prefix it too. And it's just, so it reruns that whole thing. That's why it took a bit longer to do. I don't know why I didn't refresh the, there you go. I don't think CSS auto refreshes, but anyway. So I can now change the CSS live too, which is really nice. Whereas before, I think I had it set up that I was doing this manually, you know? So every time I change this config file, this Tailwind config file, it's like, okay, I got to rerun Tailwind to generate the new Tailwind classes, and then I can use them in my app. So now that's whole packages in Parcel too. And so I'm super happy with the setup, man. And so this whole thing's pretty bare bones, obviously, but ready to go. I've got a whole bunch of apps that I can use to help me build these things out. So getting like the REST API working, Google authentication, I think I'll use. So I've got that working in other apps. So it should be fairly good to go on the server side. So yeah, that's kind of what I'll be using. So I guess I'll probably record, well, this video is not going to cover any coding itself, but I'll be doing that pretty much from tomorrow. So tomorrow I'll start building this thing, posting updates live, which would be cool. So you can see, like, this is the idea I have. Obviously, I got kind of a vision in my mind that I don't know how to express clearly, I guess, but we'll be working through that as we go. And so tomorrow I'll start building the website. I'll be live streaming a lot of it. So yeah, check me out on Twitter if you use that. I'm at Twitter at kangaroo with an underscore like this. Otherwise, check out my website, kangaroo.xyz. You can find daily updates on this little progress tab here. And otherwise, just follow the YouTube channel, I guess. And we'll see. So this month is all about me building this shitty little dev spec of a product. But yeah, so I guess that's it for today. Yeah, I guess we'll see See you next time. Ciao.